I will begin by introducing the background and story of the scandals involving the five multinational companies: MARUTI Suzuki, SANTANDER, CARILLIon, BOEING, and DAIHATSU. MARUTI Suzuki India Limited is a joint venture between Suzuki Motor Corporation of Japan and the Government of India. Established in 1981, it quickly became the leading automobile manufacturer in India. However, in July 2012, the company faced a violent labor riot at its management plant, sparked by a wage dispute. What began as a conflict between a worker and supervisor escalated into widespread violence involving hundreds of employees. The total riot resulted in the death of the HR manager, injuries to many others, and extensive property damage, forcing the plant to shut down temporarily. This incident brought national attention to the state of labor relations in India manufacturing. The next is Banco Santander. Headquartered in Madrid, is one of Europe's largest financial institutions, known for its commercial and retail banking services. Despite its global reputation, Santander UK was fined €32.8 million in 2018 by UK Financial Conduct Authority. The fine was due to serious lapses in its anti-money laundering compliance system. The bank failed to monitor suspicious transactions and did not properly handle accounts held by deceased customers. This scandal damaged its reputation and raised serious concerns about internal oversight in major financial institutions. The next is CARILLION plc. CARILLION plc was one of the UK's largest construction and facilities management firms. It has major contracts in public infrastructure projects like hospitals and schools. In January 2018, CARILLION suddenly collapsed under more than €7 million in liabilities. A parliamentary inquiry later revealed that the company had used aggressive accounting techniques to hide its deteriorating financial health. It overstated profit and accumulated debt, while both its board and auditor failed to intervene or flag red flags. The collapse impacted thousands of employees and suppliers and led to a loss of public trust. Next, the Boeing Company. Boeing Company, a leading US-based aerospace manufacturer, became the center of global scandal in 2018 and 2019 when two of its 77 MAX aircraft crashed, killing 346 people. Investigation revealed that the crashes were caused by a flawed software system called MCAS. The company had failed to properly inform pilots of regulators about the system, and it was later discovered that Boeing had even disabled it during testing to avoid costly pilot retraining. The tragedy severely affected Boeing's image and raised serious questions about safety and ethics in the aviation industry. And the last is the Daihatsu Motor Co. Ltd., a Japanese car manufacturer and subsidiary of Toyota, is known for producing compact and efficient vehicles. In April 2023, the company admitted to falsifying crash test data for more than 88,000 vehicles meant for overseas market. Engineers have modified test vehicles with reinforced doors that did not match actual production models, misleading the regulator. This scandal did a blow to the company's credibility and exposed weaknesses in safety testing practice in Japan automotive industry.
Scandal and the company involved. Firstly, MARUTI Suzuki India Limited. In 2020, the MARUTI Suzuki plant in Malaysia, India experienced a major labor riot. Dispute between workers and management was sparked by issues of low wage, discrimination, and work pressure. This escalated into violence, which ultimately resulted in the death of a human resources manager and injuries to several others in the riot. The incident raised some serious doubt about worker welfare and industrial conflict in India. The impact of this incident was far-reaching. It not only tarnished Maruti Suzuki's reputation, but also raised serious doubt about whether workers were treated safely. After the sacking, over 90 workers were jailed and many of them were let off. It was a lesson in the importance of two-way communication, fair human resource governance practice, and the need to handle labor conflict professionally. Secondly, Banco Santander. Santander Bank has been hit by financial regulators after failing to comply with its anti-money laundering AML detection system. Although based in Spain, the main case took place in the United Kingdom, where Santander United Kingdom was fined 107.8 million in 2022. The fine was imposed because it allowed thousands of suspicious transactions through customer accounts without thoroughly investigating the activity. These weaknesses in its AML system allow financial crime to flourish, including the potential for money laundering by fraud syndicates. The case raised concern about the effectiveness of internal controls at large banks and prompted the need for stronger enforcement by the authorities. Santander's reputation was also tarnished, and they were forced to strengthen their monitoring system and staff training to prevent a repeat of the case. Next, CARILLION collapse. CARILLION, one of the United Kingdom's largest construction contractors, collapsed suddenly in January 2018 after suffering hard losses that were hidden from investors and stakeholders. The company used aggressive accounting methods to hide its true financial position, including recognizing profits before work was fully complete. It took on large-scale contracts without sufficient capital or the ability to carry them out effectively. CARILLION's collapse had a devastating impact on thousands of workers, small suppliers, and government infrastructure projects such as schools and hospitals. The scandal sparked a public inquiry that exposed major weaknesses in corporate governance, auditing, and private sector regulation. Major audit firms such as KPMG and Deloitte were also critics for failing to sound early warnings. The case was used as a bad example of greed, failing risk management, and financial opacity. Boeing Company. In 2018 and 2019, two Boeing 737 MAX aircraft crashed. Firstly, Lion Air in Indonesia, and secondly, Ethiopian Airlines in Africa, killing nearly 346 people. The cause was found to be a flaw in the MCAS maneuvering characteristic augmentation system, a safety software that pilots were not properly trained in and that Boeing did not specifically explain to its users. In addition, the system is automatic and difficult to control the aircraft in an emergency. The accident caused Boeing to be grounded for 2 years. Boeing lost billions of dollars, and its image as a world leader in aircraft production was seriously damaged. Moreover, the US Aviation Authority (FAA) was blamed for approving the aircraft without conducting a true assessment. The crisis led to changes in the aircraft certification system and made the public more aware of the responsibility for ensuring safety in product design and ethical governance. Last but not least, Daihatsu Motor Company Limited. In 2023, Toyota subsidiary Daihatsu caused an uproar in the auto industry, admitting to decades of verifying safety tests. Research found that more than 18 car models marketed in different markets had been altered in crash tests to meet safety standards, even though the cars did not qualify to pass the test. The deception was systematic and deliberate. Due to the revelation, production and deliveries of cars were temporarily halted, and an independent internal investigation was conducted. Daihatsu and Toyota publicly apologized to consumers, and the process exposed the world to a world culture that was too preoccupied with performance at the time and that had forgotten about integrity. The scandal also forced the Japanese government to tighten its grip on the industry and demand that companies restore their moral standards, in the automotive industry. Key issues involved in each corporate scandal. Firstly, Maruti Suzuki India Limited. The main problem with this scandal is the management inability to handle industrial relations and employee welfare. Tensions between workers and management arose due to unfair treatment of contract workers, delays in union wage negotiation, and workload. Some of the reasons that led to the riots included the lack of effective communication on channels and shortcoming in crisis management. This shows that internal grievance mechanism, fair human resource policies, and the need to engage in dialogue with workers rather than with labor dispute are important. Secondly, Banco Santander. The Santander scandal arose from weaknesses in internal controls to address anti-money laundering (AML) compliance. The bank had allowed a range of risky transactions to occur on business account without adequate oversight, reflecting its failure to adequately implement Know Your Customer (KYC) principle. The problem illustrates how dangerous it is when financial organizations fail to comply in pursuit of customer convenience and short-term profits. It also demonstrates the need for a stronger AML system and a culture of ongoing compliance. With the organizationally, CARILLION collapse. CARILLION collapse was caused by financial mismanagement and poor corporate governance. The firm also used aggressive accounting practices such as recognizing profit when projects were not yet complete, which gave investors the illusion of financial statements. The board of directors did not perform a checks and balance roles, and the external auditors did not identify weaknesses in financial reporting. The case highlights the issue of transparent reporting, the role of directors as fiduciaries, and the role of auditors in safeguarding the interests of shareholders and stakeholders. And the next, Boeing Company. The main issues surrounding the Boeing 737 MAX case are the safety failures of its aircraft, its lack of transparency in its information, and its corporate unethical practices. Boeing introduced the MCAS software system without thoroughly training pilots and failed to explain the technicalities of its system to customers and regulators. The move will demonstrate how the presence of market power and the desire to outperform others can renege on promises to consumers. It also exposes the company's undue influence over regulatory authorities like the FAA, undermining the integrity of independent and objective certification efforts. And the last one, Daihatsu Motor Company Limited. The Daihatsu scandal was the product of an organized fraud on vehicle safety tests, in which the car chassis were anomalous modified to pass test regulations. This problem was caused by internal pressure to meet production deadlines. A work culture where performance was considered more important than integrity and weaknesses in the quality control system. The fact that management was unable to identify or contain this fraud meant that there was an issue with the company culture of sweeping its weaknesses under the carpet in order to present a better image to outsiders. It created the need for independent whistleblowers and a culture of values-based governance.
Now, let's examine the underlying reasons why this scandal occurred, which reveal common failure in ethics, governance, and responsibilities. In the case of Maruti Suzuki, the scandal stemmed from a long-standing labor tensions and inadequate industrial relations. The use of two-tier employment system created a division between full-time and contract workers, with the latter receiving lower pay and fewer benefits. Management actively resisted worker attempts to form a union and ignored case-based discrimination claims. The absence of an effective grievance mechanism and failure to recognize growing unrest contributed directly to violent outbreak at the Manisa plant. Next, for Banco Santander, the ML compliance scandal arose from the bank prioritizing business expansion and client convenience over regulatory integrity. The internal controls were not robust enough to detect or investigate suspicious transactions, especially with high-risk clients. The bank consistently ignored red flags and internal reports highlighting how compliance functions were underfunded or overlooked in the pursuit of profit. This shows a lack of commitment to regulatory responsibilities. Then, the collapse of CARILLION was driven by financial mismanagement and unchecked risk-taking. The company pursued aggressive growth through high-risk contracts beyond its core capabilities and used creative accounting to hide its weakening financial position. Rather than acknowledging losses, the board chose to present a very optimistic view to shareholders. External auditor failed to intervene, and the lack of independent oversight demonstrated a breakdown in corporate governance and accountability. For Boeing, the 737 MAX crashes were the result of the corporate culture that prioritized market competition over safety. In rush to compete with Airbus, Boeing introduced the MCAS system without adequate testing or pilot training. The company deliberately avoided disclosing the system to minimize costs and maintain competitive advantage. The FAA, meanwhile, gave Boeing too much autonomy in certifying its own aircraft, compromising the integrity of aviation safety regulation. This reflects a disturbing collapse in engineering ethics and oversight. Lastly, DAIHATSU scandal was caused by the unethical behavior driven by internal pressure to meet production targets. Engineers knowingly altered test vehicle to pass crash safety tests. A practice encouraged by a perform-focused corporate culture, internal control failed to detect this manipulation, and employees were discouraged from reporting misconduct due to hierarchical pressure. The scandal revealed how a toxic work environment can erode ethical standards and compromise consumer safety.
Okay, now let's discuss about how the company deal with the situation or issue. Firstly, Maruti Suzuki. Maruti Suzuki, they respond with improved grievance mechanism, housing programs, and permanent contracts, while they get criticism fail to address exploitative contract labor and pure industrial relations seen as disciplinary rather than reformative. Secondly, for Santander UK, they doing automate compliance tools, increase staff and simplify onboarding, and get a criticism to get a criticism that they delay response, known witnesses ignore for years, test focused feeds and lacking proactive compliance culture. Uh, Thirdly, Carillion. When the issue is going, they do last minute lobbying and superficial cost cutting. They got criticism when no real reform until after failure, and government investigation reveal auditing failures and pure leadership. Next is about Boeing. So Boeing, they respond their CEO is replaced, safety division create and mandatory reported introduced. And last but not least is Daihatsu. They respond with full production health, leadership change, and Toyota took over quality control. And they got criticism, quick action praise, but do remain whether Toyota oversight alone can change deeper compliance issues. Okay, now let's jump to the short-term and long-term impact. For Maruti Suzuki, their short-term impact is about 85 million US dollar financial loss due to plant shutdown, and major reputational damage from public and labor groups. For their long-term impact, they introduce a better grievance system, permanent staffing, and union engagement. Other than that, there also persistent ESG risk from continued reliance on contract labour and pure industrial relation. Next, for company Santander UK, their short-term impact is fine of 107.8 million and also increased compliance costs and damage public trust. Their long-term impacts is redesign the EML system with AI and centralized compliance and improve efficiency and governance, but slow initial response still raise regulatory concern. Next, for the CARILLION, their short-term impact is 7 billion in liabilities and thousands of job loss, help public and private construction project across the UK. Long-term impact is the disqualification of directors and major UK governance and audit reforms, ongoing reference case for pure financial oversight and short-termism. Uh, for Boeing, their short-term impact is over 20 billion US dollar in legal settlement and compensation, production halt and sharp loss of public and investor confidence. Next, for their long-term impact, CEO replace safety oversight restructure and new safety management system implement. Other than that, their long-term impact also involved in culture concern persist due to later incidents. Uh, Last but not least, for company Daihatsu, their short-term impact is immediate production halt and drop in sales, especially in Southeast Asia, and damage to both Daihatsu and Toyota reputations. And their long-term impact is their leadership change, external audit, and Toyota assume vehicle certification and structural reform underway, but doubts remain about internal culture and unrealistic deadlines.
Okay, now we go to the comparison for scandal management for each company. So we have a 6 aspect comparison for those 5 of companies. So for the first one is a crisis response, where Maruti Suzuki India immediate take legal action and terminate guilty worker contract. Next, for Santander Bank, they paid 107.7 million pound UK that was fined by Financial Council Authority and 5.6 million in Spain. Next, for Carillion, no response. The company collapsed instantly. And for Boeing, grounded 757 MAX, paused their production and the company do public apology. And Daihatsu halted production globally, and they admit their fault for the scandals and paused delivery for each period time. So next, for second aspect is leadership changes, where Maruti Suzuki India, no leadership changes after crisis, and Santander same with the Maruti Suzuki, where no leadership changes, and Carillion board was failed and company collapsed, and Boeing CEO replaced leadership. CEO has been replaced after the crisis, and Daihatsu CEO and chairman of Daihatsu resigned, and Toyota intervened and controlled the Daihatsu. Next, for the third aspect is operational reform, where Maruti Suzuki India has reduced contract of workers and improved HR process for hire the suitable workers. Next, for Santander Bank, anti-money laundering technology has upgraded and 4,400 staff added for compliance. Next, for Carillion, UK government reform supplier risk monitoring post collapse. Next, for Boeing, overhaul assembly process introduce move ready and increase their inspection for the 757 MAX inspection production of the plane. And next, for Daihatsu, testing process overhaul for each car and gradual restart after only approval until they are all production is certified and pass their safety test. Next, for the fourth aspect, aspect number 4 is legal and regulatory. Maruti Suzuki India has cooperated with law enforcement to face the crisis. And for Santander Bank, paid heavy fines and work with regulation. They are follow regulation after the crisis. And next, for CARILLION, FRC imposed fine on KPMG and audit reform followed because FRC has not do their job for the CARILLION scandal. And BOEING, FAA enforce production limits, independent oversight. And for DAIHATSU, government force recertification for all models. Next, for for aspect number 5 is a cultural and ethical shift, where Maruti Suzuki India improve worker relations and limited border ethics shift. They are safe ethics shift company. Next, for Santander Bank, focus on system over cultural changes. For CARILLION, sparked national corporate governance reform. And next, for BOEING, from profit driven to safety first mindset because after 2 crash airplanes. And next, for DAIHATSU, transparency driven with Toyota oversight. Next, for the last aspect is industry reform. Maruti Suzuki India, no major collaboration, just they are handling on their own. And for Santander Bank, launch fraud defense, where to improve their defense system. And next, fraud sharing with BBVA and Kaisa Bank, so they can upgrade their bank system to prevent anti-money laundering, to prevent money laundering scandal. Next, for CARILLION, government and FRC initiate audit reform across industries and next, for BOEING, work closely with FAA and NTSB for new safety regulations. For DAIHATSU, Toyota assume direct control, where direct control after the crisis and dissolve DAIHATSU independent structure. Because before this, DAIHATSU is independent as they are on board, as they are on top management. But now it's Toyota control the DAIHATSU fully. Now we go to the pros and cons for all their strategies for each companies. So for the first one, Maruti Suzuki, they are fast crisis control and improve HR and worker safety. But their disadvantages in their strategies is no leadership changes and focus on the labor issue and not broader governance. And next, for the Santander Bank, their pros is a strong compliance upgrade and industry fraud prevention by innovate a new system is a fraud defense. For their accounts of their strategy is reactive rather than proactive, because they are reactive after the crisis, not before the crisis happened. And next, no leadership accountability and surface level fixes. And next, for CARILLION, their pros is forced national audit and governance reform, but not their own self, but government took the action. And next, cons for their strategies on CARILLION is company fail completely and catastrophic governance and risk management failure. Next, for Boeing crisis. Boeing crisis strategy pose is a structural, structural reform, safety first shift, and FAA-driven process overhaul for each production of the plane. And next, their Boeing cons of their strategy is changes come only after deadly crashes, which the plane has crashed. Two plane has crashed and dead, and many passenger dead. So that give reputation damage to them globally, and needed regulator pressure to improve. Next, for Daihatsu, all in strategic on their strategic management is a full transparency, and Toyota led governance reform. But their cons is issue ignored for decades, because almost more than 10 years the issue of safety tests has been rising up, and heavy reliance on Toyota for recovery, not on their own, and massive production and brand damage because of that crisis. Next, what's the critics of the critic summary on their strategies? So Boeing and Daihatsu show the most comprehensive structural reforms, including leadership changes, regulatory collaboration, and cultural transformation. For Santander, display a compliance-heavy but leadership will respond, because no response from their top management. Maruti Suzuki focus narrowly on labor without addressing broader governance. For the last one is CARILLION, is a case of total collapse, serving as a warning for governance failure, where CARILLION and the government institution work closely to do the scandal.
My name is Afi Jazimin, and now I will present about justified suggestion for better handling corporate scandals, and I'm as the company secretary. First, I will strengthen governance structures and board oversight, which is establish dedicated risk and ethics committees within the board. Second, include independent experts, legal, human resources, technical in board membership, and conduct regular board evaluations and ensure audit partner rotation to maintain objectivity. The next point is, I will foster a safe and transparent whistleblower environment, which is implement anonymous reporting channels that report directly to the board or company secretary, provide legal immunity and external inquiry mechanism, and encourage a culture that rewards openness over secrecy. And then, number 3, improve internal control system and early risk detection, which is strengthen internal controls in high-risk areas like financial compliance and operational safety, ensure independent internal and external auditors report to the board, and leverage AI-driven monitoring system to detect irregularities early, as seen in the Santander case. And then the number 4, strengthen human resource management and labor relations, which is promote fair treatment, equal pay, and open communication, learning from Maruti Suzuki crisis, and then establish joint consultation committees for early governance grievance resolution, and ensure equitable labor policies for both permanent and contractual workers. And then now for the last slides, number 5, build a values-driven corporate culture, which is leadership must demonstrate ethical behavior, focus on safety and stakeholder welfare, link executive rewards to both financial results and ESG, which is environmental, social governance goals, conduct regular ethics and compliance training for all senior management. And then number 6, uphold resilient, ethical and transparent governance, which is move beyond minimal regulatory compliance to foster a deep-rooted culture of ethics, resilience and transparency. and prioritize foresight, stakeholder trust, and accountability to prevent future scandals. And then I have the closing message. The company secretary plays a pivotal role in embedding sound governance, ethical conduct, risk management, and transparency to ensure long-term sustainability and protection of stakeholder interests. That's all from me. Thank you.